It may not have been the result that we wanted. It definitely was more than most people were expecting. But at the end of the day, it gave us exactly what we needed. Flyquest closed series over Gen G gave us hope.
Into the pink! Into the pink! Everyone get in here!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the season finale of The Pit. Yes, the final episode. The next one will come out next year in January as we are wrapping up the LCS season. Don't worry, you'll still have 3 videos a week every single week on this channel, so you're not going to be missing anything. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 4,000 followers here on YouTube by the end of the year, and hopefully we can get there. It's going to be close, much like this series. Coming into this series, I was big on the fact that I think we need to win game 1. We need to at least show some fight. Or if we were going to lose game 1, bounce back and win game 2. We luckily got the reverse of that, where we crushed game 1, lost game 2. But early on, there were some very clear signs that we might be able to hang with them. And for once, we did the Yamato speech from back in 2018, for those that don't remember, where he said to play your own style. And guess what? We did, and it drew a Seraphine ban for the rest of the series. That's wild. Game 1, I'll be honest with you, was a pretty big stomp through and through. It felt like we were firing on all cylinders. We were very focused. There weren't many plays where it felt like we slipped up all that much. Not many mechanical errors as well. One moment where we ended up getting Baron, kind of tossed it a little bit, allowed them to get Dragon, allowed them to get Tempo, but we were able to bring it right back into things. And after game 1, everybody's sitting there freaking out. I wish I could capture that feeling and that moment when we won that game and everybody realized, oh man, this could be a thing. I would argue that's an even better moment than after game 3, where it was okay, we're on the verge of doing things, because then things got very real, very quick in that moment. But for game 1, it was just this jubilee elation of what? Okay, nobody was expecting this, and yet somehow we're living up to the moment, and everybody's buying in because the implications of this series were so big. T1 fans cheering us on heavily because they don't want to face Gen G. European fans, obviously we have 2 European players on our team, but in addition to that, we're the only Western hope. They want us to play well. Everything in this series was going our way, and having the crowd just screaming 24/7 for Flyquest, and any good play that they made throughout this entire series was immaculate. Now, you could still tell that we were the underdogs in this series because the games that we won were pretty close. So, game 3, for example, Busio sets up a double kill for the Kaisa early on, and we have this thing that's okay, if we could just play around this, we're fine. We know the pathway to getting there. But in the games that we lost, games 2 and 4, specifically whenever Canyon got his Nidalee, yeah, we got our asses kicked. Blabber doesn't play Nidalee quite like that. But I feel like we did a good job after both of the losses in game 2 and 4 of coming back and refocusing. It felt I don't want to say we were happy gaming. We definitely weren't. But it wasn't as refined after the wins. I don't know what caused that. It's not all that much was different in game 2 from game 1. We were on red side in game 1, and we were on red side in game 2. They just made some good adaptations that I guess we weren't ready for. We didn't play the 200 IQ checkers over them, and that's fine. But when it came to game 5 and when it came down to clutch time, the thing that I'm most proud of this team is the fact that they went out exactly how they were going to. The second you see the Smolder get locked in from Chovy, you know that they are going full scaling immediately. And if we're being honest, fully transparent, we're probably not going to win a full scaling matchup against Gen G, where we are both equally doing so. Even though our team fights were pretty on point, it felt for whatever, especially with them having the momentum from game 4, if they go hyper scaling, they probably get it. So we make the pivot, you go to the Fiddlesticks, you go to the Callista, you eventually pick up the set, and it's just okay, we gotta get this ball rolling early and build the momentum, which is exactly what happened in game 1 and game 3, where we were able to get those plays within the first 15 minutes that helped snowball us later on. But look, Gen G is the best team in the world for a reason. Us losing in game 5 in this fashion, one, is immaculate because it's the first time that the West has taken a game off of the East in a best of 5 in years, almost a half decade now, or actually I think a half decade. But you just will never forget that feeling of realizing that we actually stand the chance and that we're still the underdogs, clearly, but we are punching above our weight class in a way that we have not in a long time. And that came off of the back of some amazing performances from every player on this team. Everybody stepped up and had their moments throughout. The standout for most people is going to be Masu. He did have some moments later on where unfortunately he was out of position, but the highlight reels speak for themselves throughout this entire series. Busio, who a lot of people were giving flack last year, even at MSI, where, yes, don't forget, this is the same Flyquest team that lost to PSG Talent at a best of 5 earlier this year. They leveled up pretty heavily. People will criticize Busio for overextending and running his mouth on social media. He baited very well this series. Inspirable, I think he probably had like the weakest of the team on the day. Still was incredibly impactful in many of these high pressure moments. The game 3 moment where Masu had to immediately Zonia's and then Inspire was able to make sure that he did not get CC'd immediately afterwards. Inspire was still clicking. It just, Canyon was honestly probably playing the best out of any player on that team on this particular day. And then Quad, the man that everybody came in as like, okay, we've already seen him play against Chovy. We probably know what's coming. He stepped up massively. Being willing to pull out that Zeri game 3, love it. Loved every second of it. So we don't leave this tournament with our heads held low. We leave again with our heads held high. Gen G could go on to win this entire tournament. I mean, they could also go on to lose to T1 in the next round, given that T1 has plot armor. But this is probably the most respectable showing that a Western team has had since G2 2020. It has been 4 years since we had like this level of optimism that you leave with. And for Flyquests, this is a pivotal moment for them. It's a pivotal moment that NRG kind of failed last year, which even then, it like with NRG's qualification over G2, it felt good. But it was not the same level of hope because they got slapped in the best of 5 against an Eastern team. Here, we took on the best team in the entire world and kept it close. And now for Flyquest, this is something that you can absolutely build a brand around. You had everybody cheering their name. You have Chinese fans buying into Flyquest if they can continue to show up on the international stage and continue to be present at that setting. Then yeah, they can really start building a brand from this because they have every piece in motion right now. You have the content creators on their side in LS, who's able to be the co-streamer and the voice of Flyquest on that front. You have Basil Leaf, who is appearing in their YouTube content, running their Twitter, being their outreach person. Like, she is the embodiment of everything that I personally love to see from orgs embracing like fans of the org as their content creators and as their reps. She might not know the game in the same way that LS does, but she's able to connect with the community probably a little bit better than most. She might be one of the best content creator pickups of the last like 2 years from LCS teams. It's not even including the merch sales that she gets because of her art and like the cat designs. For Flyquest, the org behind the scenes as well, you do have names that have learned from past mistakes. Papa Smithy, who did have a great roster with 100 Thieves, but was never quite able to get that community buy-in that Flyquest seems to be getting right now, despite having some of those loud, boisterous voices that people sometimes will turn against. Behind the scenes, they have a lot of people that actually were with CLG back when and understand like that appeal of like the diehard believers. So you can kind of see that getting reflected a little bit in their marketing. But for them, I'm curious to see how they build. They just hit 100,000 followers on Twitter because of this tournament, and it seems like they've got momentum going for them. In a world where we are lacking somebody to step up to the plate of C9, of TL, to help like be this budding rivalry as an org and push each other higher in the same way that CLG, TSM, and C9 did back when, it looks like we could possibly have a good core 4 with Flyquest leading the charge right now as the top of the table. Team Liquid being arguably bigger numbers on social media, but being just under in terms of performance there. Cloud9 still being Cloud9. And 100 Thieves being on the outside looking in of those 3 potentially. Either way, Flyquest is just set up for success. And I think they have all the right pieces in place that we could really see this org take off over the next 2 years if things keep falling their way. But we'll see. I don't want to put too much of a jinx on them. I just want to mention that for people who might be looking for a home, because for the longest time, League fans have struggled to support teams over players. And it feels like Flyquest is giving you a clear-cut reason to support their team. So if you feel any inclination to go support them, even as a clear 100 Thieves fan that would love you to join 100 Thieves, that's for other videos. In this case, Flyquest has earned their respect and has earned your ability to put some faith in them as an org long term. Kind of switching back to like Worlds results, does this mean anything for the LCS as a whole? Absolutely. I mean, we're not going to forget the fact that 100 Thieves did drop out in the play-in stage, but they're a rookie squad that will come back and develop further. They're very similar to what happened with Team Liquid last year. Team Liquid bombs out against GAM in the Swiss stage. Still gets through play-ins, but obviously has a really rough tournament coming into it with 2 rookie players in APA and Yawn. For 100 Thieves, this is something to build around. Now that they've announced that they've re-signed River as well, and Quid and Sniper are still on contract, this is something that you can build around for them. So I fully do expect them to improve, despite this being like a clear like black mark on people's view of Worlds. For Team Liquid, yes, they dropped the ball, but we never got to see if they were able to level up to that point where maybe they didn't have to play against Flyquest, but they could play against somebody else. Either way, like last year we mentioned that like this is probably one of the more hopeful Worlds results that you walk away from being like, yeah, like things could actually happen. And it feels like this year was again another step on top of that. It feels like a foot in the right direction. It feels more like Misfits losing to T1 back in 2017, which then followed 2 great years for the LEC. Like that's where my vibe is at. It just feels like we're really taking progress in the areas that we need to. It seems like we're fixing some of the issues that we have, starting to rely on our rookie talent a little bit more, surrounding them with the right pieces that they need. I know next year is going to be scary with the Americas by all means. I'm not trying to diminish how like a little bit worrisome this is. The fact that we're only going to be able to send 2 teams from our conference next year could potentially be a good thing, could be a bad thing. But for now, at least, I think we walk out of this year even more hopeful than last year, that we can continue to take the steps and continue to hopefully keep our foot in that door and maybe pry it open a little bit more next time. Really quick, I want to voice my support for best of 3s in the LCS. If you don't know, when they announced like the new format and Mark Z came out with all the info, it does seem like we're going to have 3 splits with all different formats within each split. The first one being a lock-in tournament similar to what we had before back in like 2021. The second being what they're labeling as like a traditional split. And then the third being more best of 3s, more series, etc. Papa Smithy from Flyquest, Dodo from Team Liquid. I'd imagine some of the 100 Thieves guys probably sign on to this idea as well, given the general perspective that it feels like they have. I don't want to see best of 1s ever. Like I don't care what we got to do. We need to get rid of best of 1s in the LCS permanently. They need to go away. Papa Smithy notably said that like he does not want to see it return, and one of the main reasons why Flyquest was able to get to the point where they are now is because of series and best of 3s in the LCS. So let's not take a step back and ever go back to best of 1s domestically. Like for lock-in tournament and it's just like seeding, but it doesn't eliminate you, maybe, but like make it quick, like make it very quick. There should never be a point where best of 1s are more than, I don't even know, like 15-20% of the entire season. You do it because it's a necessity. You don't do it because you want to. So we better not, like, I don't care what has to happen with this spring split. Find a way to make sure best of 1s are not a part of them, and that's not the standard. I know Mark Z, by the way, congratulations. He just got married, for those that don't know, and he's on his honeymoon right now. This will hopefully be like a sticky note on your computer for when you get back, but let's make that change, please. But I think that's it for me. I think that's everything that I want to cover on the pit this year, this season. If there's any additional like breaking news that comes out, like bigger stuff around the LCS, I will obviously be talking about it in independent videos. I'm also going to have a Road to America series starting in December that's going to kind of break down the different portions of the business of the LCS and kind of give you a glimpse as we go into the merger, talking about like the marketing, learning about the South a little bit, looking at our side from a revenue and expense point of view, full business and social analysis. It should be fun. But I have one final thank you to say, and that is to those of you that have discovered me here from TikTok or have actually like seen me there, because that's where I started my social media career back in 2021. I just hit 50,000 followers on there, and it, believe it or not, like it's a big milestone for me, not for the reasons you would think. I hit 40K back in 2022 at the end of Worlds there, and it took me 2 years to gain 10,000 additional followers there, as I question whether it was gonna die out, like whether I'm on the right path to try and like make this whole thing work. And it's been a long 2 years to finally hit this benchmark that I wanted to set for myself. I'm proud of the work that I've put into it. I'm proud of the hours that I've put into trying to improve my content and get better at all this and foster a better community, both here on YouTube and on TikTok. And I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's been along for the ride at any point in time, or even if you're new here, thank you for being here. It's much appreciated. I've talked long enough. That's the end of the pit, folks. See you in January, but see you also on Wednesday for the next video, because it's Call of Duty launch week and I've got some COD specials coming out for you.